Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron.
You done messed up, Aaron.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for more SPTV, where what? Every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Oh, hold on a second. I am Natalie Webster. Many of you I know, but if you don't know me, I have a channel called Life After a Cult. I haven't been doing videos for a little while. I've been on a little break, but have come back to help out on Aaron's channel while Aaron Smith-Levin is in jail, which many of you know. He, this is all the influence of Scientology trying to stop him from protesting and continue to share the truth about Scientology. It's actions that they've taken basically to get his bail revoked. And now thinking that this is just going to stop people from protesting. And it's not, because it's Friday night. And what happens on Friday night? The protesting in Clearwater. And it is ongoing. I know for sure Farrell Cheryl is out there with other people. We're going to pop in and take a peek at that. We're going to have a special guest on in a little bit to chime in as well on everything that's going on. Free Aaron, that's right, y'all. Hey, doesn't matter to you, not to me. We got some help behind the scenes starring questions, so I am going to be keep picking in on those. Oh, Sandy McKenna, that's right. You were out of town. I just saw you go flying by in the chat. Greetings from up north. Sandy, you leave town and look what happens. Aaron is in jail. You guys know Sandy McKenna, and Sandy's going to be back, I think, not till after Thanksgiving. Farrell Cheryl, though, meanwhile, is killing it at the protest. We are going to chime in and check in with her, too. And I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, too. Hello to everybody coming in and saying hello. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. Again, I'm here to help continue to keep Aaron's channel going, to help continue to keep his income going as well, because this is how he makes a living. And if he's in jail, he's unable to make content. And many of you know that when my partner, my Tony, was passing away, Aaron did the same thing for me. He came on my channel, created content to help me keep myself afloat. And many of you helped and contributed to that as well. And I appreciated it so much. I appreciate it still today. And I want to be able to do the same thing for him as well. Linda saying, hey, Natalie, I emailed someone from the Tampa Bay Times today. I'm sure nothing will come of it. You never know, though. You never know. I say keep those emails going. Reach out to, sometimes it's even a local publication. Don't underestimate the power of smaller local publications who might be willing to cover a story, whether it's this or even anything going on in your community. A lot of larger publications and news outlets grab stories from smaller publications. I would say don't let that deter you. Keep reaching out and letting it be known, what's going on. Now, let's see. I'm going to do just very quickly for those who might not know. Aaron y'all remember the incident with the chalk where Aaron was protesting, and then members from Scientology Sea Organization decided it would be a good idea to dump gallons and gallons of water. Number one, to waste it. I mean, that was my first thought actually, was, are we really going to waste this much water? I don't know what it's like in Florida, but some parts of the country, I think, have still been under a drought, or at least here and there. They're dumping all of this water to try and deter the protests. At one point, Scientology brought out water cannons, which that blew my mind, because I'm like, y'all are being confrontational now. And I think it was the day when the water cannons were there and the water was being dropped, and like right at the protesters, it was directed. And Aaron had the chalk. It's the same chalk that's used when you do a color run. And, well, I've never let's be honest, I've not done a color run. I think I did one 5K and I walked. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I ran in the beginning because there were cameras. Soon as I was out of range of those cameras, my butt started walking. And I was last. I'm talking like police car following behind me as I brought up the last part for this 5K, but it was all for fun. It was for St. Patrick's Day. So anyways, this chalk that's in kid fun runs used a lot. You guys have seen it. It just kind of goes out to the crowd. The color gets on everyone. It's actually cornstarch. And so when Aaron released some of that, it allegedly got and hit one of the Sea Organization members who was wearing a mask at the time. And, I am no pulmonologist, but, I just think like when you're wearing a mask, that even more so, stuff's just not going to get all up in your airways. And this guy was taken away, if y'all remember, I think he was like taken into the ambulance, maybe even on a stretcher, if I'm remembering correctly. Y'all correct me if I'm not remembering that right, because I got the menopause brain fog. So he ended up being taken into this ambulance and made claims of, having respiratory issues, which I'm like, I don't know. If I'm having respiratory issues, the first thing I'm going to do is take off my mask because I'm going to feel like I can't breathe otherwise. So, um, Aaron ends up being taken into custody for that, and he gets out on bail. And while he was out on bail, he went over to see, our friend Pat Harney at the Office of Special Affairs there, um, and saying hello. And there was an incident with another member of the Sea Organization who shoved open a door, and it actually hurt Aaron's foot. And you could hear it in the video. Y'all remember that. Well, it was that incident that was brought up as, oh, he violated his bail because of that. And Aaron had it on video. We saw it. And this was a Sea Org member pushing the door, injuring Aaron. Aaron even said, he yelped. You could tell he was in pain that, hey, you can't just hurt people. You cannot do that. And as if you followed this channel or any others that talk about Scientology, especially the Sea Organization, thinks that they are above the law. I have had members of the Sea Organization point blank tell me, no, we don't need to follow that. We are above the law. The Sea Organization is above the law. That actually is the belief. And so you combine that with Scientology's policy of what's called fair game, where L. Ron Hubbard said, hey, you know what? You can lie about, you can attack, you can be shady, you can plant evidence, drugs. Scientology has a long history of doing this stuff. It is okay, because as long as you're doing it to people who are critical of Scientology, it's called fair gaming. You are fair game if you are critical of or seen as attacking Scientology, or someone who's been declared a suppressive person and is speaking out about it. So you combine all those things together, and what you end up with is this organization that thinks they can do whatever they want when it comes to the law, and will actually use the law, will abuse the law to try and silence people who are out telling the truth about Scientology. And that is what has happened in this situation here. Now, what's happening is, I think, the opposite of what Scientology would want to happen. I don't think that it's slowing down any protests at all. And that's why we're going to check in with Farrell Cheryl. That's right, Susan. I can't believe that the paramedics would take someone who complained of breathing difficulties, yet was still wearing a pipe mask and not on oxygen. The whole thing was farcical. Farcical? I'm not familiar with that word. A farce? I'm going to kind of go with that. I agree with you. That was a whole thing. It was such theatrics, and not even good theatrics. So many of us sit here amazed that it even went this far, but this is what Scientology is good at. They are good at manipulating people. They are good at manipulating law enforcement. These people are experts in mind control. That's how they keep members in line. And I was in Scientology for 35 years and left with 3 generations of my family, which is very unusual. So with that mindset, you can see how this situation would come about. And they've done it over and over and over again. If you Google Paulette Cooper, what happened with Jesse Prince, with Mark Bunker, he has been on this channel. I've interviewed him as well, where Scientology has gone after him publicly and otherwise. So we know what they're doing. And I think more and more people are coming to learn and understand what they're doing as well. And it's not okay. If Scientology would just take a little bit of that effort and focus on, hey, why do people think we're bullies? Why do people think that we are, fair gaming people? But they don't. They never look, because in Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard said, never defend, always attack. So they're not going to defend themselves. All right, y'all, let's see where we're at. Why don't we check in? We're going to check in and out with Farrell Cheryl here. Let me go over. First, let me make sure that I'm caught up live on her video there. Let's see. Hold on. I'm just going to mute that there. So let's get that pulled up. Let's check in with Feral Cheryl. Feral Cheryl on the loose. This is her stream here. Let's listen in for a minute.
Yeah, I have a degree. I'm not excited. I just was good at drug identification and I'm nosy. So my teacher was like,
I can tell ecstasy. I can tell ecstasy from meth. Duh.
I was like, what? It's not that much, actually. The teacher said, sorry.
Oh.
I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit down.
Yeah.
One of my friends was like, oh, you've done that. You can't go federal. And I was like,
So they're right there outside flag. Honk if Scientology is a cult. I absolutely love that. That is probably one of my favorite signs out there. Still out there protesting. This is Feral Cheryl on the loose, her stream here. Let's listen again.
But not very well because I wasn't paying attention to the state trooper. Who's not here?
Fast parking spot. No, I'm parked right there.
I'm behind the state trooper. I'm safe.
At us last week. A couple of them.
Really?
That's interesting that there's a state trooper out there.
But you could hear us in the background being like, oh.
That's brilliant. I love it.
And it looks like we still got a lot of chalking going on. Scientology is a cult, big cult out there in front of the sign, in front of the superpower building there.
Hurt.
Do you have like a wet paintbrush that I could?
The only one I have is the one I'm using because I usually have two.
That's all right. I wrote
And I took mine home.
Put a layer of water on it so it sticks and doesn't blow away.
Right.
I love this. We still got people out there who are protesting. The protests against Scientology will continue, not just in Clearwater, but in many other places as well. Let's check in with some of your comments here as well. We're going to check in with Cheryl again in a little bit there, but it's great to see everybody out there coming out. Actually, I'm going to listen real quick.
Free Aaron. Free Aaron.
Me and Cheryl, I need to go come right in the closet.
My closet and my vinyl collection of things no one touches. Let's see.
Be sure, if you're not already following Feral Cheryl on the loose, to do that. We're going to check in with her again. Let's take a look at some of your comments here so far. Up Mail says, I've had Aaron's playlist going all day on my own old phone. Appreciate that, Up Mail. That's one of the ways that we can help Aaron is it's watching his content. Content creators on YouTube make money based on their watch time, not the views, but the actual amount of time that people spend watching their videos. Thank you for doing that, Up Mail. And a playlist is a great way to do that because then it'll just go one video to the next. Laney L14 says, so glad the protest is still going ahead and sending love to Aaron. He should get an automatic pardon. This is ridiculous. I agree with you completely. I hope Aaron knows how loved he is. Jenny, I do believe that he does. Jenna Miscavige is able to speak to him regularly and was relaying so many of your well wishes from last night's stream. So I think he is getting those messages, and keep that love coming. Daniel Kurt says Aaron is a human rights defender. I would agree with that. Scientology is the opposite of that. Scientology violates human rights on the regular, and it's very ironic that they have the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. In fact, when I was getting my daughter out of Scientology, one of the things that helped her realize that what we were saying was true is I asked her, think about the Declaration of Human Rights that Scientology promotes, not written by Scientology, but they always promote it. Think about the Declaration of Human Rights. And I was reading her a couple of those rights. And I said, I wanted you to compare that to what your life was like in Clearwater. She was right there in Clearwater where Cheryl's protesting. She would be in the coachment building. She was training to work for Scientology. She was working over 100 hours a week on her feet. She was supposed to be there training to do a job here in the Twin Cities. But what Scientology does is uses staff members from other organizations to work for free at Flag. And that's what was happening with my daughter. She was deprived of food if she didn't make certain targets. She was sleep deprived, made to stay up, forced to do manual labor and cleaning as punishment for not making sales targets. When keep in mind, Sales wasn't even her job. But still, that's what happened. So they have this long history of doing this and violating these human rights. So when we bring that up and we share these stories and these experiences, of course, Scientology doesn't like that because they try to promote themselves and position themselves as being defenders of human rights, of supporting human rights. And it's all a front. And the crazy thing is, I remember being in Scientology. When I was in Scientology, number one, didn't know I was in a cult. I grew up in it. It's all that I knew. It's what was normal to me. And I had normalized the violation of human rights. I didn't even know I had human rights, to be honest. And when you normalize that, you no longer recognize that what is happening to you is actually abusive. You don't recognize that. So much of my experience in Scientology, I knew it was wrong. I knew that I didn't like it, but I didn't actually recognize it as human rights violations and as human trafficking to the degree that I've had since even years afterwards, especially being here on YouTube and doing more interviews with other people who were former members of Scientology. And I've really come to understand that and see it for what it is. And for me, that was an eye opener. So I don't say it lightly when I, talk about their human rights violations because as a former member, I now recognize it and can look back and see where those rights were violated. They never wanted us to know what our human rights were. Interestingly enough. Sue, thank you so much for that super chat. Absolutely appreciate it. Julia O'Connell, thank you as well. That is very appreciated. Fabulous. George Massey, the man in black shirt, be singing the Pinellas County Prison Blues. Maybe. I don't know what Aaron was wearing when he went to jail. I've got questions. And I signed up for the messaging where you can message with Aaron. In fact, I should check and see if he responded. I have questions. Do they give you clothes to wear? Do you get to wear your clothes? Can you change your clothes? What is the shower and toilet situation like? We did find out yesterday that where he's being held, there aren't any bars. So I'm sure we'll find out when he comes out and he will, fill us all in on all of it. Love Maddie says, oops, cornstarch, what a farce, Sciento ambulance. Exactly. Kind of like, I don't know. Again, first thing I would have done is take off my mask if I was having respiratory issues and unable to breathe. But we know this is all smoke and mirrors. This is all theatrics. This is all Scientology cult math. And unfortunately, it worked in this situation, or it was working. I don't think it's going to continue to work for them. Benson makes a great point with a mask on that had no blue on it. That's right, because the cornstarch was blue and there was no blue on it. Kara, I don't know if it's Kara or Kara, the powder is used for a religious festival in India. Scientology showing religious intolerance. Exactly. Why is it all these other people can be exposed to this cornstarch, but for some reason, Scientology Sea Organization members are just, have a massive reaction to it? I don't know. Janet Burns says he also had his back to Aaron. Oh, my phone's going on. He also had his back to Aaron. The chalk went on his back. I mean, I don't know, Janet. Maybe he breathes through his back. Maybe he's got some like fish have gills. No, he does not. So that doesn't make any sense either. You're right. No blue on the mask. The blue actually hit his back, yet somehow caused respiratory distress, but not enough to take the mask off. Arkansas Flamingo, hello, my friend. Natalie, I forgot how much I love watching your hands as you talk, so expressive. I thank you for being here. Me and Taz, it's bleeping cornstarch. Scientology get a sense of humor. Exactly. But they will use anything. And that is one of the reasons why if you find yourself dealing with Scientology or protesting Scientology, is know that they will use anything they possibly can to try and stop you from protesting and exposing Scientology. They want to break up communities. They want to get people fighting with each other because they are, and I said this last night and I will say it again, they are deathly afraid of community. When people come together, it makes us stronger. When we stand up for one another, it makes us all stronger. And when we're all stronger, when we have a group, when we have community, when we care about each other, we don't put up with stuff like this. And that is what frightens Scientology, I think, the most. And that's why they work so hard to try to destroy communities. And think about this. These are former members of Scientology, cult survivors, and many of you never in Scientology, but all in on ending this cult. You have community. You're able to come here and share ideas and news and experiences. Why is that so threatening? Why is it so threatening to Scientology if it is untrue, everything that we say, as they say it is? Why are they so threatened by us saying that? It would be no issue then. But if you're going to go to this length to try to actually manipulate people, manipulate the law, to abuse the legal system, to stop former members from speaking out about the cult that they grew up in and sharing these stories, and there are so many, at what point do you not ask yourself, like, I don't know, maybe we are doing something that's messed up because there's so many people out there. There are more people here on Aaron's channel as subscribers than there are Scientologists in the world. It just does not make a lot of sense. But it makes sense if you understand Scientology and what their actual goal is and what they're trying to do. And Scientologists were trained in this because Ellen Hubbard said, this is how you do it. Super Weekend Warrior, good to see you. Scientology knows that there will be no repercussions for them abusing the legal system. Well, I think they're going to kind of F around and find out. There is and will be a point, and have been points in other situations where, they get called out on it and they don't get away with it. What they're trying to do, they want to tie people up in court. They want to tie up their resources. They want to drain resources. That's their whole goal, often even more than actually winning, is to harass and tie people up in court, to drain resources. That is right out of the Office of Special Affairs playbook, because that's what L. Ron Hubbard said to do. Sylvie says they are being more and more dangerous now that numbers are dwindling. They are overdoing it. I would agree. And remember, what are some of the things that Aaron's been talking about here on his channel recently? The way the numbers, the actual numbers, leak to him from people, what we call under the radar in Scientology, people who want to leave, but usually for family connections, they have to maintain their good standing with Scientology because they don't want to lose their family members. And that is how Scientology controls people. One of the many ways. Sharon says if he was seen by paramedics, they would have measured his oxygen. This is standard test, like pulse and blood pressure. Exactly. Where are those results? Sherry says they have a really good turnout tonight. Yes, they do. Matt Elliott, the judge needs to recuse herself for AA Ron's attorney needs to request a new one that will just look at this and dismiss it. Yep, I can see that completely. Jen H says, can't wait to head back to Clearwater. Now, there's going to be a lot of people heading to Clearwater. I think it's over. Is it over December 5th, you guys? Tell me in the comments. I do believe that it is. And it's the anniversary of the passing of Lisa McPherson. Lisa McPherson was a Scientologist who achieved the state of clear, which in Scientology is a humongous deal. When you're clear, it means you no longer have your reactive mind. You no longer have that reactive mind, which is causing you to act irrationally. That is supposed to be gone when you achieve the state of clear. Now, in Scientology, on the bridge to total freedom, I did through operating Thetan level 4. So I got into exercising my, alien cooties, which at the time I didn't see it that way. But now I'm like, oh my God, I actually paid money to get rid of alien souls that I believed were attached to me. But again, I grew up in this. So when I learned that information as a Scientologist, because it's confidential, so you pay a heck of a lot of money and get the approval of Scientology to go ahead and do these levels, because you have to be approved. They actually give you a little thing that invites you onto the operating Thetan levels. I can't believe I didn't save mine, or maybe I didn't get to keep it. I think they put it in a folder in what's called your pre-clear folder. You have to not just pay for these levels, you have to show that you have contributed enough to Scientology to be accepted onto them. And not everybody gets accepted onto them, even if they can pay. I still think they regret letting me on. They actually kind of weren't going to let me on at first. And then I don't remember what happened that ended up they changed their mind. But yeah, how'd that work out? Okay. Let's see here. Let's go. I want to go see what Cheryl's doing here. Let's check back there.
I want to make SPTV.
You can't hear me. I wish
wanna
there
go
was
to
a
a
way for me
rave.
to
Yeah, we need some of
communicate
those.
with her.
Yeah. I do too. I haven't been to one.
And it's
I-
probably like all in
I
like
put
a
house music on all the time.
If you guys are in Cheryl's chat or maybe in our
A what?
George in the back end, let's send her a message and say maybe she can show us around.
Oh, I've been to an Irish.
Let's ask if she can kind of show us around so we can see who's out there and give us a little walk around, do a little walkabout. Cheryl. So if anyone's in her chat or can send her a text message, I don't know if she'll see it on her phone, or somebody there to say, hey, Cheryl, take us on a little walkabout. I would like to see more of what's happening there. Let's will it to her. We'll use the power of the mind.
Just sit up with the dead in Louisiana, okay?
Celebrating their life.
Well, okay.
I love that they're enjoying pizza.
Really
About
good.
that.
Huh?
I should ask Irish Mario about that.
We're
Walk
not
about.
gonna take it. No,
No,
we're not
we're
gonna
not gonna
take
take
it.
it.
We're not gonna take it anymore. Hashtag free Aaron.
Listen to those honks.
Without air.
Yeah.
You know, I may have been a never in, but you know, I don't like seeing shit happen to good people.
That's right.
See, that's a good one.
after you're done munching on
I
that.
like the glasses.
I splattered the car.
Oh, Mindy already ate because she usually eats the pepperoncini.
It seems like there's a
And
good amount of
Erica
people
is
there.
just chalking.
There's been more people each time I think that they've gone out there. And I love, oh my gosh, I love the Feral AF shirts.
Busy. She's busy.
We will
She's in the zone.
we will record.
What's up with the donut?
Ooh, they got donuts too. Oh, now I
I'm
feel
kidding.
missing out.
I only want a half of one
She
actually.
was wanting
I
to
just
use
need something filled.
the paint, window paint marker. Exactly.
Walk
Yeah,
about.
Erica's here. She is chalking. Oops, wait, that's up my nostrils.
Oh, good.
She's over there in green.
You'll come down for the day.
And look at that, right in big letters, cult. I mean, it looks like it's permanently there. It's not, it's chalk. It comes off very easily, right? Or is that a banner?
Oh no, free pizza. I think it's good. I think that's good. Yeah. We've already broken into two. There's some left. Where's freaking Jamie? That's why.
At work.
Well, I went out with him the other day, but
I think he's at work today.
Yeah, where is Jamie? I don't see Jamie there. And Kim is Blue. I've not heard from Aaron today.
oh my God.
I'm gonna check my emails while we watch this.
And asked me to give Levins.
Oh. No, Jen is the best.
No, Jen.
Oh! I love her.
Okay, Francisco's not here. Francisco, where are
He's in
you?
New York. Yeah. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's in New York right now, so no.
They got a great turnout there.
But Ellie and Joe definitely have the Burning Man nighttime look going. Hello! Oh my God, I love all this chalking. Holy crap. Yes, look at that. Yeah, we're going above and beyond. Okay, we need to do more over there.
Bubble gun for Aaron.
There we go. Now we'll get a little tour.
We need to extend it just to let them know.
Water spoilers and stuff like that.
We appreciate all their efforts to keep us tight and safe in a little cage.
The honks are like non-stop. Can you imagine sitting in there in the Scientology course room? I mean, you gotta be able to hear it. That's the thing. You gotta be able to hear it. I want to bring on a special guest now who's going to have a chat with us here, and we're going to get to some of your questions as well. And you all know Brooks Gibbs from the Save the Garden Project. He's been on Aaron's channel, he's been on my channel. He has really helped spearhead a community effort to, y'all remember when Scientology was trying to buy that street? And people were like, oh, hell no, 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 no. And it ended up not happening. And now with Save the Garden, what Brooks and his team and community are doing are really working to make sure that, you know what, Clearwater, if you want to sell a street to somebody like Scientology, take it to the voters. Take it to the voters and let's have them vote on it. Brooks will explain this all much better than I am here. So welcome everybody, Brooks Gibbs. Hey there.
Well, what's up, Natalie? Good to see you. I'm so glad that you are holding down the fort for our buddy Aaron, and I'm certainly here standing with you in solidarity, saying, you know what? We need to free Aaron because he's innocent. He is a victim. He is not a perpetrator. And so that's very important for us to speak out and say, city, you got it wrong. Police, you got it way wrong. Attorneys for the state attorney office, you got it wrong. And of course, the judge, she got it wrong. So there's so much wrong against Aaron. And I'm glad you're talking about it and also keeping the protest alive for all of us to enjoy watching. Thank you.
Yeah, they're all out there. It's great to see so many people out there. Brooks, you have been, you got involved when Scientology wanted to buy that street. And you have seen a lot. You've been at multiple meetings. You've spoken to so many people in the community, and you've seen a lot of this unfold in a very up close and personal way. What tell me what it's like from your perspective to witness all of this and see this as somebody who what wasn't from the world of Scientology.
Right. Exactly. I could care less. I got a gimbal, so it's a little awkward. I'm at my friend's house, obviously traveling, speaking, and so it's not my normal studio setup, but I I never cared about Scientology. Sorry guys, just didn't care about it. Didn't know anything about it. Wasn't on my radar. I work with schools. I teach students mental health. I do live in Clearwater. But when my wife asked me to help save the garden, which is Garden Avenue, a street that Scientology was trying to buy, I said, have you asked anyone else? She says, no one would really spearhead it. And so I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, do it. And please, help. And so it was really my wife, Jill, and her friend Kelly, and a group of friends that said, let's really do this. And so I've learned a lot, man. I met so many people. It's the most unifying cause in Clearwater. Do you know that? Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, no matter what your religious bent is or atheist, uh, Clearwater has one thing in common, a common enemy, an enemy that has hijacked the real estate of Clearwater. And I often say this is not our Save the Garden movement is not a religious battle, it's a real estate battle. We're
Mm,
trying to stop the Project Normandy, which is the acquisition of the majority of the land of Clearwater that came straight from the mind of L. Ron Hubbard, who intended to have the first Scientology city. And so learning about this attempt to have domination and then the strategy like thugs to actually like a mob to infiltrate all major power structures like churches as well as the police as well as city hall, county commissioners, to see their effort to infiltrate and influence using money, of course, which they seem to have endless amounts of, is just insane. And not only that, but all their tactics to try to discredit people. I hope one day to install a statue of Gabe Cazares right there in
mm.
downtown Clearwater with his fist up in the air facing the Church of Scientology as a monument to be able to say he represents the people who are contending against this dominating institution that's trying to take over. He called them a paramilitary terrorist organization. And I don't think there could be a better description of the Church of Scientology.
That is so true. And that is often too how I've described the Sea organization as a paramilitary organization. And it's always interesting to try to explain to people that part of my life, especially at such a young age, and what that was like, just even that idea and concept of how we lived and the control that was exercised there. And I really see that, Scientology's control does not stop at its members. What they try to do, exactly what you were just saying, is reach out and control all these other areas through connections, money, power, influence, to create almost this fake acceptance of Scientology because, well, we gave you a lot of money, or we'll let you hobnob with this celebrity here. So therefore, you're going to be accepting of Scientology. And in my time being outside of Scientology and getting to know so many amazing individuals that do good work, because one thing that kept me in Scientology was I falsely believed, because I'd been indoctrinated since I was a child, to believe that Scientology were the only people. Scientology is the only organization that can actually genuinely help people. And when you believe that, your willingness to protect it. I lied to protect Scientology when I was a Scientologist. And that's not even a violation of Scientology's rules, because L. Ron Hubbard said that you can give an acceptable truth when protecting Scientology, that it's okay to give an acceptable truth, that you can't give too much of the true information to people outside of Scientology because it's so beyond their reality and what they'll be able to understand. And now I really can clearly see how untrue that is, but how it's just another tactic. And I just love how, you really called it out and see it that way. And I love hearing about your perspective and take on these things because of your background in conflict resolution and teaching mental health to kids. If you were to be able to sit down with someone from the Office of Special Affairs, maybe even David Miscavige, how would you approach that conversation? Like, let's just say they were like, all right, we want, a truth. Let's, kind of going in almost like as a mediator in a way. I'm really curious as to how you would approach that conversation.
Mm, well, that would be a odd meeting. I would try to persuade him to stop claiming to be a religion because we all know it's not true. They don't believe in any God. It is a Christological heresy how they've abused the cross and made it some sort of 8-point dynamics. It's incredibly offensive. The use of church is historically strictly a Christian thing. That's a ecclesia. That is a New Testament church word. There is no other religion that uses the word church. This is the Church of Scientology is not a church at all. And I would say, man, why don't you just call it what it is? You guys do courses, right? So be a
Yeah.
university. Look, I love America. We can believe whatever we want here. We have the freedom of religion, freedom from religion. We don't have to, I'm not against anyone expressing what they believe. That's the beauty of this country. I absolutely love it. I'm a Christian, but just be a university. And here's all you can still have a nonprofit, I suppose, but then you would allow the students to have the freedom to do your courses or not. It'll work for them or it won't work for them. And I know people might, especially people who hate Scientology, would think that suggestion is preposterous, but I think that's what it is. You're training people in courses, and it starts off with personality tests, and then it goes to like the whys, right? Good leadership, wisdom, practices for managing your life and accomplishing goals. And there's communication courses and things like this. But that's what it needs to be. Just a university, and I think it would crumble because people would realize it's not worth the investment. I can't get a job with this degree, Actually, people are repelled by me because I can't think openly. I'm not a free thinker. They're very narrow-minded. I think it would collapse that way. So I would try to persuade him to be university, and then that would be one way to disassemble the house of cards from the bottom. But other than that, I would probably ask him. I'd probably become a little evangelist, Natalie.
Oops. I'm sure we'll get Brooks back in just a minute there. It looks like he's still connected to us, but we'll come back. So Brooks, come on back. He will be right back, y'all. I'm sure he just needs to log back in there again. So while we're waiting for Brooks to come back, I'm going to keep an eye out for him there. Let's peek in again and see what's happening over in Clearwater. And then when Brooks comes back, we will jump right back on with him there. Looks like Cheryl's doing some shocking. I thought it was interesting. I think she said that there was a state trooper out there. Oh, it looks like we got Brooks back. So hold on just a moment here. Let me remove that. There you are.
So sorry. I forgot to turn off this is man, we're really doing our best for Aaron, aren't we?
We are. We
But,
are.
but we make mistakes. My apologies. I didn't shut off the thing. But I would become evangelistic with I would say, do you know where you're going if you die? And I would try to reach him. But you know what's on my mind tonight, Natalie, if you don't mind me just jumping back. It's a good reset. Like I was with Aaron when he had his first court date. If you're just joining us, you know Aaron, of course, was arrested. He's in there 7 to 10 days. We'll see what happens, and I hope everyone's heard the news and they're keeping him in your thoughts and prayers and supporting him however you can. But I was with Aaron when he had his first arraignment, where he pled not guilty, talked with the judge. Essentially, really, the judge talked to him, didn't really give him a chance. And it just dawned on me that this is a citizen. He's not a criminal. You know, he was exercising a sacred right given to us in the First Amendment. It's absolutely first in our Bill of Rights. He's not protesting like some people think, like a shock jock for attention or drama. He's actually protesting because Scientology stole his childhood, and yours too, Natalie, and so many other people. It tore apart his family, right? It worked him like a laborer when he should have been a boy. It severed him from his own parents. It kept him from knowing his brother before he died. This man, Aaron, has a reason for what he's doing, for protesting. And we live in this great constitutional republic where not only can we air our grievances to the government through petition, which is found in the First Amendment, but we can also peacefully gather and protest against institutions like the Church of Scientology to say, you have wronged me, you have wronged our community, you've wronged our family. And that should be protected. The police should recognize that that absolutely has priority and protection. The state attorney, same thing. The judge, absolutely the same thing. And I think Aaron stands on a public sidewalk and he protests, and you see him, you have to realize he has every moral, every legal, and in my opinion, every biblical right to be able to say, no, this is not right, and I stand against you. You may not like his methods. You may think that he's a little, more aggressive, but he's not a violent man at all. He always tries to abide by the law. And I want to talk real quick about his case. During a peaceful protest, we all saw the video footage. If you're following this, a Scientologist walks up, an employee, was I think a Sea Org member, he dumps hot water on Aaron, and as a knee-jerk reaction, he throws this child chalk with this guy already wearing a mask. And so I don't see how any particles could even go through the pores of the mask. Like he says, he had respiratory issues, but nonetheless, there's action and there's reaction, right? There's water poured and then a knee-jerk reaction. And you see it. It's just like immediately after he gets wet all over his shoes and feet, he throws this chalk. And that could be considered battery. And what bothers me the most is initially the police officer, we have him on camera, said that he was going to write this up as double battery. Do you remember hearing that
Yeah,
footage?
absolutely.
Now, people don't talk about this, and that's really important. And so I think the first major mistake in this whole thing was that police officer being deceptive, essentially lying. not operating in integrity. He had already determined by watching the video footage, this police officer determined this was double battery. Aaron was simply reacting to the initial aggressive act of shoving buckets of water all over him and all over his protest chalk artwork. And so when he said double battery, I thought, I don't like that you would consider what Aaron did as battery, but at least you're taking a neutral approach to it. The employee is saying, I was battered. Aaron is saying, I was battered. The cop can just say, unbiased, and say double battery. But then what happens next? The truth, like the water eventually, evaporated. And he didn't actually write it as a double battery. He reported the listing as one battery against Aaron, not the attacker, not the instigator, which this Sea Org member was, not the masked employee who poured hot water on a peaceful protester, just Aaron. Aaron, the victim, was turned into the perpetrator. And
Yeah.
that's not a clerical error. I view that as a moral failure on behalf of the police officer. So I think he should be reprimanded. I think he should be rebuked. I think he should be held accountable for that lie that you changed your mind, and find out why. Why did you change your mind from the point of telling Aaron this is clearly a double battery to then giving the state attorney's office a one-sided report, and then they run with it,
Mhm.
and no questions asked. The state attorney's office, no context considered, no second angle reviewed. I mean, Proverbs 16 or 18:17, it says this: the first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. That's why the state attorney's office should say, give me the context. Let me know the other side of it. No, I'm not going to just take this one-way report. And is it true? We saw you on video, police officer. You said this double battery. What made you change your mind? But the state attorney's office refused to examine anything. And then we get to the judge. Aaron stands before her. I was there. I support Aaron. I said, Aaron, when you go into court, I'm going to be there for you. And among other people, Cheryl was there, Erica was there, and a lot more people could be there. If they could be there, they would be there. But we were there for him. And he stands right before her, ready to speak, ready to explain, ready to tell the truth of his childhood, his trauma, his losses, his family being torn apart. But she said this unbelievable statement. And this is just facts. I'm not bad mouthing the judge. I wouldn't do that. I want the best for Aaron. But she said, I don't know what your issue is with the Church of Scientology. And when she said that, I thought, then judge, ask him,
Mm.
ask him. Okay. He's not some shock jock that is looking for clicks like she said he was.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, then don't issue a judgment based on ignorance. She should have asked. She would have listened. She would have, if she was good, sought understanding. There's another proverb that comes to mind, Natalie. It says, Proverbs 18:3, it says, he who judges a matter before he hears it, it is a folly and a shame. And I think that
Mhm.
day in court, we saw folly, we saw shame, we saw justice turned upside down. So, three things I wanted to say in this broadcast. Number one, the police officer broke his word. That was the first miscarriage of justice. All right. It was a double battery, according to him, and he did not follow through with that commitment. Number two, the state attorney refused to truly investigate all sides of the matter, which is not justice. And number three, a judge ruled in ignorance. I understand that he was able to say something right before he was arrested yesterday morning, but it was a day late and a dollar short. She had already rendered her judgment in her own imagination, and she just, with a formality, allowed him to share something, pleading that, of course, he's the only single income, for his family. He's got daughters to care for, and please don't send me to jail. So it's not how justice works in America, and that's why Aaron wants a jury trial. Because, and thank God he does, because he can now present all sides of the issue to a jury 12 of his peers, be able to show all angles and give the history of the abuses that he suffered, not only him but his whole family, to now be able to say, now do you know why I protest, and now do you understand why I don't cross legal boundaries? I stay within the legal boundaries. I'm not trespassing, I'm not assaulting or battering anyone. In fact, it is them who come to me, them who harass me, them who send investigators to follow me and tail me for hours. It is they who are the ones that are the perpetrator and trying to ruin my life. And so I'm here to support Aaron. And we really have to understand that he is the victim here, and we cannot wait to the jury for them to actually hear the full story.
I agree. I also think that it's so interesting, and I think what sometimes people forget is Aaron's history with Scientology, other survivors of Scientology, their history. When we go back to the Church of Scientology, it's going back to a place that where there's not a lot of great memories. It's where some of the more traumatic moments of our life occurred. Aaron was training at Flag as a teenager when he should have been in school, when he should have been out, like you said, when he should have been being a boy. And he goes back there to face this organization that for all those points that you mentioned earlier. And I think it's important to also remember it's so easy to kind of armchair quarterback it and like, well, you coulda, you shoulda, and all of those things. But I think it's important to remember that he's facing every time he goes the people in the place where a lot of the trauma in his life with his family, the destruction of a lot of it, originated and came from and happened. And putting yourself back in that space. When I was just back there at the end of September and went and protested, and I was already pretty exhausted just from life in general. And I remember just every time I go, I love seeing my friends. I love seeing other people there protesting. I love that. But it is still difficult, even these years later, to be in that space. It's not fear. I'm never afraid. I have no concerns about what Scientology may or may not do. I have no concern about that at all. It's what it stirs up. It's that it's hard to explain. And many of you know who probably experienced trauma. Imagine going back to your abuser and standing up, and then they pull this type of shenanigans and get you arrested. It's a lot more complicated and deep, I think, than some people might even realize when somebody has survived an organization like this and you go back to confront them. It's not always the easiest thing to keep your cool and not take it personally when when they're pushing your buttons. That's something I think that I've been thinking about that the last couple of days, and how, because I myself, I'll be honest, I've had multiple conversations with Aaron in the past where I've said, hey, when you're out there, remember, they're going to do everything they can to push your buttons. They know what your buttons are. They're going to try and get you to react. And he knows this.
Mm.
But when you're actually in that situation and you are physically putting your body, your soul back there to where this abuse occurred, where the multiple abuse by different people occurred, it's hard and it's incredibly draining. At least it is for me and for many people that I've spoke about. So I think it takes a lot to be able to go back and do that. And to your point, it's very disappointing that that wasn't considered, at least maybe up until now. I'm hoping that that changes by the judge, because I think that that history really matters. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's context, right? I mean, a judge is
Yeah.
supposed to consider the entire matter and to understand intent. Intent is everything in law. Why did you do that? And it's not always easy to ascertain intent, because the only person that knows the intent is the person that did it. You can't assume intent. You can't ask your prosecuting attorney to tell them what they think the intent was. You have to ask the person who did the thing what their intent was. And if you don't ask that question, you're being, I think, unfair. And I have to be careful with what I say, because I do have hopes that the judge will be able to consider what she has done, um, especially after the last words that Aaron shared before she sent him off to jail. And perhaps there would be some level of a feeling of obligation to really give him some level of fairness in the future, because I think he deserves compensation. This is wrong from the beginning, from the police to the attorney to the judge. But to your point, when I think about the facing the abuser, right, and what Aaron has to do every day. Yeah, remember when he went to the bank building and they shut the door on his foot?
Yeah.
I was actually there that day. I do this thing sometimes where if I know Aaron's down there and he's confronting people, I hide around the corner just in case I need to pull him out or something if something gets weird. And he didn't ask me to do this. I just feel like I want to be a good friend. And if I have the time, I'm there. And I was there actually. I was there. And I was in the Starbucks looking kitty corner across to that building. And I was like, oh man, he's getting too close to them. He hasn't violated the boundary at all. He was still there, in the public part, but it definitely seemed to get escalated. And when he came into Starbucks to get a water because he drips with sweat like a maniac, um, I said, Aaron, and this goes for all protesters. It has to always be true on video and witnesses that you're the victim, because that's what you are here. And you have to continue to maintain that posture in the eyes of the public, because though you're protesting, you can never be considered the abuser or the perpetrator or the attacker or something like that. And in my work with aggression, it's always interesting because everyone thinks the other one is the bully, right? And everyone views themselves as the victim. So of course Scientology is going to take the victim approach, but they need evidence to prove that. And with the right angle and with his tone and vocal strength, they can try to tell that story. Hopefully they don't doctor the footage or something, but I wouldn't put it past them. And he understood. He said, when Dr. Martin Luther King was training for his sit-ins, he would put them in game day scenarios where they were spat on, they were hit, they were dragged off the diner bar and dragged out, all in preparation. They say the battle's won before it's fought in the preparation phase. And so our protesters really need to go through training, in my opinion, to be able to say, here's how to always have optics and truthfully operate as the one who's protesting a grievance that you have. You are the victim here. You are not the perpetrator, and you are exercising your First Amendment rights within the constraints of the law. The other thing, I think, what keeps Aaron and you and other ex-Scientologists going is something that's existential. I often teach, just like I did today in Minnesota, the worst thing that have ever happened to you can become the best thing for you. And when people hear that, they really hate that at first, because they're like, what are you saying? Are you saying it was good that I went through abuse? No, I'm not saying that the abuse was good, but I am saying good can come from the abuse. And that's what counseling's for, by the way, to help you not be a perpetual chronic victim, but see yourself as an overcomer. And when you look back on your life, say, gosh, if I didn't have that happen to me, who would I be today? I'm so much more loving now. I'm so much more passionate now. I'm so much committed to help those who are oppressed now. I have existential purpose and meaning in my life. And it goes back to Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, who said while he was being tortured, the way he survived is that he envisioned himself lecturing as a psychiatrist to his students in the future, helping them understand how to endure hardship like a good soldier and endure. And he says that meaning, that future hope, absolute assurance of coming good, I can use this pain and leverage it for purpose. That was my fuel for survival. And I think Aaron sees it that way. Who would Aaron be if he didn't go through this horrible trauma of Scientology? We're so thankful for the man that he's become and is becoming. We all know he's a work in progress. He's not done yet. He's improving. He's becoming sharper. And I believe that this 7 stint in jail, the 7 days or 10 days, I pray that it'll be very much a reset for him to be able to, very much like Martin Luther King, who had some great writings from his prison, to be able to reassess and say, okay, what am I doing? How am I doing it? Where am I going? How am I rallying the troops to really shine a light on the abuses of this horrible institution? And how do we take down the Church of Scientology in the eyes of the media and in a legal way? How can we contend and stop Scientology from working the opposite of what they're trying to do? Because that's his role, that's his mantle, that's his purpose. We all see it, and we want him to do it well. So I think that will happen. This is all part of the refining process of the making of a man we call Aaron.
Yeah, I feel that completely. I often am asked, do you have any hatred or, towards Scientology? And I truly don't. It's not, I never felt that feeling of hate because the individuals in it, the majority of them are good people who are being misled. You don't sign a billion-year contract and give up having a family, spending time with your family, being able to go to the movies, being able to take a nap on a Tuesday. I mean, just all of these little things that most people take for granted. You don't give all of that up because you're self-centered. You really we believe that what we were doing was truly making the world a better place. So it's heartbreaking to me that that desire to help is being hijacked by a family destroying human trafficking cult, that it happened in my family.
Mm.
And when I first left, I was vocal about it. I spoke out about it. And then for many years, I got on with my life, and if it would come up and I had an opportunity to talk about it, I would, but I really didn't seek it out or talk about it much. And I just realized that I kept feeling that it's easy to just go and get on with my life. So much of my life was taken by Scientology. Generations of my family, it caused generational trauma within my family, that
Mm.
just walking away from it and never talking about it again, maybe that is the way to go. And I just couldn't do that because I kept thinking about when I was in Scientology and having these feelings of not understanding my emotions that we weren't allowed to have, and these feelings that I were having that made me feel so horrible. And I can remember so clearly, I can remember the smells, like being in the sea organization, being in those buildings, working the hours that I worked. There are still people there who are doing that, and many of them who don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Many of them grew up in this. They don't know any other way. They don't know what actual freedom is. It's really hard to walk away and know that even though there's less and less of them, but there's still so many of those people there. And a lot of them are still people that I cared about who are still there, who don't know the truth, who are in denial about it, who within Scientology, the mind control is within yourself. You are indoctrinated to control your own mind, to stop yourself from having thoughts of leaving. You automatically think of the words of L. Ron Hubbard. Oh, I'm having thoughts of leaving. I have Overton withholds. I'm being critical of Scientology. I must have done something bad. And even when you leave Scientology, especially after a lifetime of it, it's not like you leave and, oh, I'm done with Scientology. It's just, it's gone. I don't use it anymore. When you're raised in something and indoctrinated, it becomes a part of you. And as someone who, and I'm in my 50s, I am 55 years old, and really feeling like I'm just starting to figure out who I am, what I want, and having the freedom and the space and the bandwidth to be able to do that. And I've had moments too with especially everything I've been through the last couple of years where I'm like, oh, it'd just be easier to focus on myself and my life. And I am doing that. And I will always prioritize myself over anything that I do with Scientology because that's the whole point. I'm not about to martyr myself in any way to fight Scientology in that way because you don't have to. That you don't have to. But that also is that work ethic indoctrination of you just have to be 110 all the time. And that is really what gets in the way, I think, for a lot of people in leaving because you have so much already invested into it. And I have so much appreciation and gratitude for people like you and people never in Scientology who stand here and stand beside people who were and who are fighting this, who are exposing. It just blows my mind because I look and I go, well, I know why I'm here.
Well,
And I look around at all these people and go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But it proves the
mhm.
point. Scientology told us there weren't good people in the world, that it was only Scientology. And everywhere I look, especially in this community, I see good people.
Yeah, there are good people, and that's what amazes me. Like, how can you not be aware of the goodness that is all around you. To think that one institution has the sort of the trump card, or the I guess the monopoly on goodness, is so arrogant. It's so narcissistic. It's kind of why I never liked. I think it was called the Salvation Army. They have this tagline. I think they trademarked it. They should just trash it. But it says "doing the most good." And I said, I
Mm.
really don't like that, because have you really analyzed all the good in all of the world? And can you really show data that you by far are doing more with your resources than anyone else? It's just, just do good for goodness sake, and celebrate the good that other people are doing. And regarding liberty or freedom, which is what the religion promises, the bridge to total freedom, it is so
Mhm.
obvious to us who are on the outside looking in, saying, boy, that's the opposite of anything I've ever seen called freedom. I don't see any freedom there. Why can't you freely associate with other people? Why can't you, like, I would love for a working current Scientologist, and I've met so many of them, and I've invited them to talk with me, man, because I'm going door to door. I've gone over probably almost 1,500 door to doors with the Save the Garden movement, and I'll meet Scientologists, and there's like, we're Scientologists. And I said, well, there's Scientologists, that I would like to talk to. Do you have any time to chat? Can we chat it through? I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I'm not trying to, like, create a new like religion or whatever, or proselytize my faith or anything like that. I just want you to interact with another non-Scientologist and see that we're good people. And even if we weren't, right? Like, even if there was some bad in us, yeah, I love the old phrase, there's enough good in the worst of us and enough bad in the best of us. It behooves all of us to have grace with the rest of us. You got to be able to see the good in everyone. And so I have been listening to a lot of L. Ron Hubbard to understand the psychology of a Scientologist. I listen to his audio trainings a lot. And
Wow, I did not know that.
oh yeah, man, you should see my YouTube playlist. It's like, YouTube has figured out that I am obsessed with this guy, L. Ron Hubbard, to understand him, because I don't want to speak out of ignorance. And I've had to correct some Scientologists, like he says Christ is an implant, like Jesus never existed. He was an implant. And that's astounding. We have archaeological historical evidence of certain people that have lived around this earth, including Jesus, who I have faith in. And to say these statements, and the sheer grandiosity. I'm going through Dianetics right now. I'm listening to it. I'd like to write a book that basically says rethink Dianetics, and just show systematically the illogical um, conclusions that it comes up with. But he would say things that are so grandiose. I mean, embarrassingly, like, there is no other discipline in psychology that has ever been to have the accomplishments that we've had in Dianetics. And just in 2 sessions or 3 sessions of our work on the cans, you could increase your intellect, 10 points from IQ perspective. And basically, the world has got it all wrong, and I am the only guy on earth who's bringing people this level of technology. Guys, he wasn't even quiet about his grandiosity. He was a true madman, a true narcissist. There's some genius and some brilliance. I mean, his ability to be so prolific and have, I don't know, so many words that he wrote, and all of this stuff that he wrote about. But then I started studying Gnosticism. Do you know LRH is actually a plagiarist? If you
Oh
study
yeah.
Gnosticism, which basically means the search for knowledge, Gnosticism, which started probably with Simon the Sorcerer in maybe probably 30 AD. Uh, Gnosticism essentially is secret knowledge that you have to pay to access, and it's an occult strategy to basically suck in and keep ignorant and vulnerable individuals. And the whole concept of knowing how to know, or Scientology, which is the study of knowing, trying to reach
Mhm.
knowledge, it is a ripoff from Gnosticism, including the origins of the earth, which ripped off Greek mythology. All L. Ron Hubbard did, as I'm learning more and more about him, is he took an old Gnosticist, Gnostic theory of world origins, and he wrapped his sci-fi around it. And of course, he had some influence from Crawley, who was, of course, trained Gnostic, although he wasn't directly trained by him. I'm like, wow, there's nothing new under the sun, and this guy truly is a plagiarist. He just puts $10 words around things, but the bones of it is all the same. It's a lie that will not die. It's humanism. It's you are God. It is an absolute abomination, in my opinion. So I have no problem going head to head with this, what I would consider a cult. I have no problem, you know. And if they're doing something illegal, like confiscating streets that are rightfully the public's, I will gladly launch and maintain and succeed in the Save the Garden movement, because they have been for a long time now trying to take over our territory in a land grab. We have indisputable historical evidence that their whole agenda is to own Clearwater. No, this is my town, man. I'm a citizen. Look, I'm happy. People have a hard time hearing me say this, but just like parenting, I tell a child, you're a welcome member into my family, but you're not the center of my family. Your mom and I were here before you got here. Your mom and I will be here long after you leave. You are a welcome member into our family. And don't ever think that all of us revolve around you, buddy. Look, I love you. I'd die for you. And I live my life providing for you. And I'm committed to you till death do I part from you. But you're a welcome member. I feel the same way with Scientologists. I'd say, you guys are welcome members into our society, our community. There's no problem with that. But you are not the center of, you are not the owner of our community. So we're not going to let you have more rights than the other guy just because you have the most money. And that's my approach to it. I see him for what it is. I'm educating myself to understand really the roots of it, which are corrupt and sick. And I'm continuing to fight with all of our volunteers to save the garden. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the opportunity to lock arms with folks like yourself and Aaron and say, yeah, yeah, man, let's contend with this behemoth in our midst.
No kidding. Now tell me, with what you've been doing, especially going door to door and speaking with Scientologists, have you experienced any type of fair gaming from Scientology, any backlash from them at all, or anyone on your team?
Oh, yes, I have multiple websites with my name on it that are saying scandalous things. They're criticizing my education. They're criticizing my teachings. I teach kids to be resilient. I teach them to take personal responsibility for their feelings. I don't victim blame them, but I do say you have responsibility to process what happens to you in a way that's advantageous to you. And so they're ripping apart and I say they because uh, it has to be associated with Scientology, because I've never had this criticism before I started Save the Garden or with my friends. It only came after Save the Garden. So I make a very simple correlation that all the online attacks and the what we call hit pieces online, the websites, the YouTube videos and stuff, who is Brooks Gibbs, that whole thing, that's all in line with what they do with any of their critics. In addition to that, when I go speak places, they'll call the media. I don't know who they are, but they're operatives, whoever their agents are. They disguise themselves under emails like pascalswager@gmail.com, and they don't sign names. And I was in South Dakota, for example, and of course, when I go to cities like I'm in Minneapolis this week, when I go to cities, they advertise that Brooks Gibbs is coming, speaking to our kids. And so once it's advertised public, then the operatives that are working on behalf, I believe, of the Church of Scientology go ahead and do a campaign to call the media, call the superintendent, call the principal, and try to slander my name. They point them to the websites that are slandering my name. And so they're trying to hurt my business. Here's the cool thing. I've been doing this 25 years and I've not lost one client from that. They just get back to us and say, looks like you got some crazy trolls. Oh my gosh, they're such weirdos. And so they see right through it. They're not very good. And my wife always likes me to make an emphasis. Whoever's doing this is not very good, because they're not winning. I'll tell you one other thing, Natalie. I've been a pastor since I was 20 years old, an ordained pastor. And although I've been working as an author speaker, and that's how I make my money, I like to volunteer as a pastor and to teach the Bible and stuff like that. I did have a church locally who tried to hire me as a pastor. They wanted me as their senior pastor, and it was set to go, and I was excited about it. But there had been a campaign done the week before the vote, that stirred up this young, or really they're old, but they're few. That's the word I'm thinking of. There's about 60 little congregants, and they just got too worried because I'm such a controversial character. And there was a phone campaign and an email campaign trying to keep me from having that position, and I was fine with that because if a church doesn't want me, I don't want to lay down my life to, give everything I have to them. So I'm not bitter or anything like that. And we found them a great pastor uh, that I'm really proud of, and I really think is perfect for them. But that anytime anything happens for me personally, publicly, like online, or someone announces something, those people are attacked by people related to Scientology to try to thwart it. So yeah, that's happening. That's happening to
Yeah,
me.
that is ridiculous. And here it is, you're not even you're it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're creating community. You're not excluding Scientologists. You want to have a conversation.
Yes.
You in the time that I've known you, your approach is always one of trying to be open and inclusive and to kind of get to the meat and potatoes on it, to create resolution, to create something that can be better. And the fact that Scientology is going at you like this and doing this fair game and doing these tactics all into an attempt to get you to stop what? You're not to get you to stop, standing up for Clearwater and saying, "Hey, I think that people should have more of a say when it comes to selling these streets." And like you were saying, that just because Scientology has maybe the most money and controls the most real estate doesn't mean that they should control everything about Clearwater. It just, whoops, it blows my mind. And it really makes the point of how ridiculous they are, that how far they'll take it. You're not a former member of Scientology. You're not even out there bad mouthing Scientology. You give your opinion and your viewpoint. But the thing that you're doing, and I feel like you're really good at, is creating community and bringing people together. And that is something that they fear so much. And you do it in a way that is not hateful. And that is something that they fear so much. When people go at them with hate and vitriol and all that, that's, because that's their vibe. That is their wavelength. Their wavelength is one of hate and control because they think that's the only way to be, that you have to be adversarial with somebody who doesn't agree with you or doesn't see things from your same point of view. That's a huge part of the indoctrination of Scientology. And here you are saying, hey, help me understand. You're studying L. Ron Hubbard. You're trying to understand. And it blows my mind, but it also really makes my point, I think earlier, is one of their biggest fears is community. They fear people coming together. They fear people talking. They fear you making friends with Scientologists who might go, well, wait a minute. What this guy's saying is truth. It's actually making sense. And there's no hate there, yet they're
Mm.
still using these same tactics against you. It just absolutely blows my mind.
Well, you guys are on the front lines, and so when I started doing the Save the Garden thing, and whenever I speak on behalf of Save the Garden, I do keep it focused on the street. We're trying to do something to preserve our downtown streets, and so we're trying to do a petition to make voter approval required for the vacation of downtown right of ways, and I try to focus on that. But on a personal note, when I have personal conversations, I'm very curious about people's experiences in Scientology. Being a Christian, apologetically, I'd like to understand what is the reason for what they believe and who's the source of their theology. And since I'm being attacked by their policies, I'd like to understand who's this man, LRH, who wrote these policies that is now attempting the execution of those policies or trying to destroy my livelihood. And, you have me more interested now, Sci-Ti. I'm very, very interested in who you are and what you're out are. And if you really, really want my attention, you've got it. And now I just might come out with a book that disassembles every single logic argument of LRH, disassemble it. So it's any rational person can say, here's what he says, here's what we know to be true, and obviously, this is off. And so I think that the way we help Scientologists break free is go to the foundation in which their house of cards is built on. And that's this man, this flawed man that is a literal criminal who was running from the law, right? Running from arrests. He's a unindicted co-conspirator of Operation Snow White. Um, he is an enemy of our community of Clearwater in the past, and he's made a lot of enemies. Like I want to know this guy, and so that can inform me how to win Scientologists out from the bondage. There's a great verse. I think I shared it with you. Is By the way, everyone, I am in Minneapolis. Natalie's in Minneapolis. So obviously, when I came to speak here at schools, I said, "Can I see you? Can I give you a hug?" And
Yes.
it was so good to see you here. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in studio today, but um, you know, I'm just so amazed. I lost my train of thought now. Isn't that funny how that works? Uh, yeah, but anyways, I care about learning from his writings and to be able to win people out of Scientology. There's this verse that I shared with you. It is related to Christianity, but it says, "It is for freedom Christ has set us free." So don't entangle yourself again in the yoke of slavery. And in other words, don't go back to the habits of slavery. And what I love about that is, it doesn't say you're free. It says it is for freedom you have been set free. In other
Mhm.
words, freedom is nothing until it's actualized, until it's enjoyed, until your liberties are practiced. And that's when you're in freedom. When you're like, free speech is really not free speech unless you start speaking freely and
Mhm.
exercising and actualizing the freedom in which you've been given. There's an old story of a guy who is wealthy, and he says, "I want you to bury me with all of my wealth, my millions of dollars. I want to die with it, and I don't want anyone to have it." And the wife said, "Okay, honey, I will." And so she wrote a check for millions of dollars, and she tucked it in his casket as he was buried. And he was essentially, laid to rest. But that was a check. Will that check ever be cashed? No, she still has access to the bank account, and she could freely actualize all the money that she has. And that's the way a check works. You really don't have the money unless you spend the money. And that's how freedom works. Scientologist, are you free? Can you
Mm.
freely speak? Can you associate with SPs? Is it really freedom? Can you find freedom outside of the theology, which is pseudo theology of L. Ron Hubbard? No, you're not. You're not free. You're in bondage, and you're tethered and tied and leashed to this institution that is not life giving. It's dwindling. It's a sinking ship. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. And so be set free. That's really what I want to tell all my friends I hope to have someday that are Scientologists. Win them away.
That makes so much sense, especially what you said about actualizing that freedom. And I know for me and others, former Scientologists that I've spoken to, when they've come forward and publicly shared their story or gone out and protested at a Scientology organization, it was very much that actualizing that freedom. That's one of the things that I think I get the most out of it, is knowing that I get to be here and voice my disagreement, and to publicly do so, whether it's outside of a Scientology organization or it's here on YouTube, and to share my experience. We were never allowed to talk about it. We weren't allowed to talk about anything that would distract from Scientology. If we were upset because a family member died, it just you did not have the space to experience those emotions. And I think sometimes it's I've seen people go a couple of, sometimes you find that kind of that happy medium, but sometimes people go too far one way where it's just this fire hose, but it's so much coming from a place of never being able to say this, never being able to get that out. And again, I think that's something that also Scientology becomes very afraid of, because it is the truth and they know it's the truth. They were there. A lot of the people who participated in covering up crimes of SA, they knew it, because the justification is, well, we need to protect Scientology because Scientology is what will free people. Scientology is what will create a clear planet where there'll be no more insanity or war. So the stakes are very high. So if you have to lie and deceive to protect Scientology, you're lying and you're deceiving because you're bringing freedom to all of these people, because you're bringing freedom to the world. And it is the exact opposite of that. And to your point, because you can't actualize it, you can't say, you know what? I actually don't disagree. I don't agree with what L. Ron Hubbard said about this. You cannot be a Scientologist in good standing and go, you know what? I think we need to revisit the policy of disconnection and forcing people to cut ties with their families. They're not allowed to do that. And they're so indoctrinated to believe that they can't, or even when they disagree. I knew many people in Scientology who took issue with this ideal organization program, with the amount of money that they have to donate, with the books that they're forced to buy, mainly a lot of the financial things. But they didn't voice it because when they did, it cost them more money because Scientology would go, well, you obviously have Overton withhold, you need some security checking, some interrogations at your own cost. And you learn that it's cheaper to keep your mouth shut. And they
Mm.
just convince you that
Which makes it so
not being free
disingenuine.
is free. Yeah.
Right. It makes it fake. You know, if you're keeping your mouth shut and not being authentic and honest and truthful, then you're faking. The whole thing is a lie. And I think that is just tragic. The snitch culture that Scientology has cultivated is really remarkable. And our team at Save the Garden has seen firsthand. We've had so many cars, film us and stuff. Uh, People come up to us. I've never seen more middle fingers in my life, by the way, than when I started, a sign Save the Garden, stop Scientology from taking our streets. You think these are moral people? Isn't like ethics a concept within Scientology, right?
Mhm.
Like, shouldn't the golden rule, treating others the way you want to be treated, like, would prevent them from dropping F bombs and being so vicious, vulgar, and venomous with their words, or
Yeah.
viral online, trying to spread and sabotage people's livelihood? I mean, the middle fingers, the F bombs, the pictures, the reporting. Uh, I'll be doing a sign for Save the Garden, and there's clearly a private investigator coming in with his camera, straight up that. And I pose for them, by the way. That's what I do. I say, hey, I do the I love you sign. Yeah, I'd rather do this with my three fingers than their,
Yeah.
one finger. Uh, but that's not a culture. The snitch culture uh, is prison culture, by the way. It's like, they say snitches get stitches and wind up in ditches, and but it happens. The gossip becomes currency, and then it becomes control, and then you are able to inform on people because you heard this and that, and then there's consequences, and there's this information pathway all the way up to the person who's in charge. It's all intelligence, essentially, is what they've become, a form of CIA of some part. So, in some part, so they need information, and they have to feed that to the higher ups, and then they have to report it. And what a miserable culture, my friend. I want nothing to do with it. The concept of forgiveness, for example, I think would be
Ah,
non-existent for them.
yeah.
Forgiveness is such a big deal. It means, not only choosing not to remember the thing, but it's, if you can, because we can't always forget, but we can try to choose not to remember. I'm not going to go there. I've forgiven the person, but it's really releasing the person that did you wrong from the responsibility to fix it. That's what forgiveness is: releasing the person that did you wrong from the responsibility to fix it. Oh, there's no such thing like that in this
Mhm.
of forgiveness in this cult. So what a miserable place to live. I'm so glad you're out of it. And that's why I support Aaron. Full circle. We're on his channel. We got to honor the man in which we're sitting in for. Aaron is a man that understands this is a damaging place. And I think of his girls, his daughters, and how they have to be without their dad right now, and that must be very scary.
Mhm.
But they know he's a justice warrior, and he's fighting the good fight. And right now, it appears that he's losing the battle, but I believe he'll win the war. I'm trusting that we have good local folks who are going to be on his jury to be able to listen to the context of what he's accused of and to be able to see the context of what his life is all about. He is a victim that has overcome tremendous trauma and now advocating for those who are stuck inside, like Flavio, right? That's who he was
Mhm.
actually advocating for. A mother and father who lost contact with their son and are trying to get in touch. They're not boots on the ground, but Aaron is. And Aaron, on his behalf, is trying to say, have you heard of this kid? Have you heard of him? Make sure he calls his parents. And I think that's praiseworthy. I think that's praiseworthy. And I think the jury will see that as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope so too, getting that information out. Does it matter to you? Not to me. Says, what can we do for this great man and support Save the Garden campaign? Yes, I'm cheesy.
Well, by
That is
great
a great
man, I
question.
suggest you're talking about Aaron. I think you can definitely keep supporting him how everyone's calling him to support. Save the Garden, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, he's talking about you and how can people support the Save the Garden initiative?
Save the Garden, if you go to savethegarden.org, you can watch and share our documentary series. We just came out recently with episode 4 that talks about the fair game tactics that they have taken against us, as well as the poor city clerk and city attorney interpretation of the statutes that govern petition drives. And so we kind of unpack that, as well as the attacks we're under from Scientology and their parishioners and operatives. It's a fascinating episode. I think it's going to be our most popular. It certainly was the most I had to edit. It was the most work. So
I,
just,
I need I need
share
to
our
get caught up
videos.
on that. Can Ahmad share a link to the channel that can be found on here on YouTube? Is it say it's Save the Garden?
I don't know what the handle is. Yeah, I don't know. Save the Garden, Clearwater, probably. Save the Garden, Clearwater. But be that as it may, that's how you can support us. Share the video, bring awareness. That'd be fantastic. We don't raise money for this. All of us are doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. We don't want to raise money because we're not interested in needing to report any earnings raised, right? So we're
Mhm.
just sheer raw grassroots, man. And we're going to be pushing 6,000 signatures. We're probably at 5,500, I guess. We need 7,100, so we're almost there. We have till the end of April to finish. So we're about to do another launch push door to door and stuff like that. But the holidays are coming up, so it may be more January. We go like full on, bro, full throttle, full send, as the kids say, as they dab and say 6, 7 or whatever. I'm so over that. But uh, w- but thank you for considering to support Save the Garden. That's ways that you can do that. If you're a Clearwater resident, go to savethegarden.org. Make sure you go to our signature station and we'll take your signature.
That is fantastic. I can't wait to hear more about it. I want to get caught up on those videos. And we should do maybe another video where we can kind of like go through it and chat about it and break it down because I mean, I wasn't aware till tonight that that all was, happening. I've been off in my moving
Hmm.
new job world, and so I'm kind of getting up to speed more on a lot of the things that have been going on. And that is just crazy to hear. So I want to learn more about that. Make sure everybody go to Save the Garden
And
here on YouTube and check that out.
Natalie, let me speak on behalf of this community. Uh, you are Aloha. You are so special. You have such an incredible heart. We all feel it. We all sense it. That's why we love seeing you here, and I'm so glad you're pitch hitting for our buddy Aaron. Aaron is a warrior. He's a front lines guy. He has no problem facing the enemy, and his memory of who's who in the zoo is phenomenal because he can call people out, see how all they're connected, follow the money, and explain how it works. I think he could have been an attorney and a lawyer or something like that. He's so good at following cases. We need Aaron, and that's why we're here to support him. But we also need you. And aloha, man. I mean, in your timing, when it's right, we will all continue to be excited about your evolution as a YouTuber, as someone who is curious, asking great questions, and trying to grow as you recover from life after a cult. So we love you dearly, and thank you for
Exactly.
doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that, and I will, coming on and doing this on Aaron's channel, I think will kind of help me get going again. It's been kind of a bandwidth issue with moving and downsizing and still working through the whole grief process after losing Tony and then starting a new job and moving, which has been incredible. I think moving has made the biggest difference for me. I think it was the physical clean start that I needed. Tony died 17 months ago. And when I was still living in the house, I could feel myself, like starting the healing process. But it then became almost suffocating in ways to just be surrounded by this life that just was not going to be happening again. It was going to be different. My life was going to be very different. And to try and create a completely different life in a space that so solidly held the one you had before, I found that to be very difficult. And I haven't even been in my new place maybe a little bit over a week. And it just has done so much, I feel, for my mental health as well.
Mm,
And I'm glad. I mean, the timing works out really well too, because I mean, 2 weeks ago, I mean, being in the middle of moving and having deadlines and all of that, I just, now I moved, I still have to unpack. My work schedule is still crazy, but this is much more doable for me. And I'm much more motivated because, like I've told everybody earlier, Aaron was very much there for me when Tony was dying. He went on my channel and continued to do videos to help me out because that was my livelihood at the time. And he never hesitated. He just did it, and I appreciated that so much. It just, we when I did my interview with him, I just never thought that, here we'd be a few years later, and I've been I probably see him and Jenna and my Clearwater friends. I've seen them more than some of my friends here in Minnesota because we've been able to travel together and protest together and do these different things. And that is part of that community. And being able to step away from YouTube for a little while, I still felt so and feel so held by this community. I can feel the space being held for me. And I am looking forward to, getting back on my own channel as well. And I kind of have a different take on some things. I want to talk about these same things in a bit of a different way. And I'm kind of figuring that out as I go along. And I think even coming on here and talking about all of this is very helpful. I mean, I'm relearning how to use StreamYard again because they changed everything since I was
mhm.
last there. But I think it speaks a lot to this community because I know I don't feel like I went anywhere in a way. It feels like because I have been, and I haven't been able to follow as much of a lot of content that I was doing before, but kind of getting caught up now and finding out who's doing what. I'm doing that. And I'm so glad to see so many people still here and coming together to get the word out about what has happened here, with Aaron being in jail, and more so in the tactics that Scientology is using and has used to try and silence their critics. And even people like you, where you're going out and trying to create community and do something what is wrong with having the people vote? If a city wants to sell a street, why shouldn't the residents vote on it? What is Scientology so afraid of? Especially given that they claim to have so many thousands of Scientologists there in Clearwater. There should be no fear then. It should just be a slam dunk and a no-brainer. And here you are going door to door and having interaction. I'm so curious about this. Can you talk a little bit more about your interactions with Scientologists as you've gone door to door?
Yeah, when I say, I have a script. I said, "Hi there." I'm trying to get my mind in the script again, but it basically says, "Hey, we're collecting signatures to stop organizations like Scientology from taking our downtown streets without voter approval. And then if I use the word Scientology, I could look at their eyes and basically say, like, is it horror? Like, if it's horror, then I know they're a Scientologist. So that's always the telltale sign. The cool thing is there's really not that many of them, and they're mainly down Cleveland Street. Like, I mean, they're sort of like concentrated. There are some in other neighborhoods. My favorite is when the neighbors say, "Hey, don't go next door. There's a Scientologist," and I'm like, "Hey, I definitely want to go next door to talk to them, see if they'd be willing to talk to me." But usually it's very hostile. And what I try to do is I'm saying, "Hey, we're not saying that Scientology can never have the street. We're simply saying that the voter would be required. In other words, the whole community might give you Scientology a street if you get 51% of the vote. So we're not
Mhm.
saying you can never have a street. We're just saying it's got to go to voter approval because there's too many power dynamics on the city council. Scientologists give millions of dollars to the Republican PAC that trickles its way down to council members who then use that money to run their campaign. And then there's also pressure from the local city because they're literally operating in a building that's owned by Scientology. And two council members have told me they think the walls are bugged. I mean, these are like, I'm not lying. The council members have actually told us that we think this room is bugged. And they kind of say it tongue in cheek, but the fact that they even would say such a thing shows you that they're constantly surveilled and they would not put it past this institution. So it is just a tremendous joy to be able to have a chance, a sliver of a chance to talk to a Scientologist. I get a pit of
Yeah.
sickness in my stomach when I do, talk to them because I don't like conflict, even though I study it for a living. But it's like I have hope, if that makes sense. Like I hope that they're willing to carry on a conversation. And I came pretty close one time. We were down actually by Aaron's Park, I think it was, where he lives by. And I was going door to door, and some guy was playing with his kid, and I thought that was awesome. And I just asked him, I said, "Hey, we're trying to stop organizations like Scientology from taking streets without voter approval." And he says, "What have we ever done to you?" And I said, "Oh, are you Scientologist?" And I said, "Look, there's a lot I could say actually to answer that question if you want me to be honest." And he says, "We're really good people, man." And he says, "You know what? I probably vote just like you do, bro. Like we have like so much in common." I said, "Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we have in common." He says, "Well, I gotta go because my kids and all this." I said, "I'm gonna give you my number. And I'm really wanting to have coffee, bro. Please. Let's chat." Like, how amazing would that be if you, a diehard Scientologist, fully public, by the way, public Scientologist, not Sea Org member, would talk to me about what you believe? Like, let's do that. And he says, "Yeah, I will." Well, anyways, that very next day, I was downtown at that Starbucks right by Cleveland Street, and I saw this guy walk by. And I said, "Hey," and I called his name. I don't remember what it was now, but I called his name. I said, "Hey, is this now a good time to chat?" And he full on ignored me and he kept walking on by. And I said, "Well, that's so typical of not able to in apologetics, in Christian apologetics, there's this phrase, give a reason for the hope that lies within you. To every man give an answer to the hope that lies within you. It is it is totally reasonable if your life is completely changed for the better, for you to now share why and how, and even proselytize, even try to recruit to say, you can have the same joy that I have. But I think they know they can't win an argument. They can't defend L. Ron Hubbard. They can't defend all the scandals in the past of Scientology. It is an absolute PR nightmare. This organization, and
Did
they
you
don't want to be in the
know?
position to defend it.
Did you know that one of the early steps in Scientology, one of the abilities that you gain is the ability to speak to anyone about anything. It's called grade 0. So there's grade 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you go up through clear, you do some things in between, and then you do the higher confidential levels. So this is fairly low on Scientology's, their bridge, their steps that they do to get to this total freedom. And it is that the ability to talk to anyone about anything. And I remember as a Scientologist thinking that is cool. Like, yeah, that what a great ability to be able to have. But then to not be able to actually exercise that, you're actually not able to speak to anyone about anything. And some of these people that you spoke to probably had no idea it's not like they were all notified by Scientology necessarily, yet their reaction was still to not communicate. Whereas you meet a Scientologist and you see that as an opportunity to maybe gain some understanding. A Scientologist meets someone who is trying to, hey, I just don't think Scientology should be allowed to buy this street. And their reaction is one with a lot more animosity. And you said they've been very combative, right? I find that so interesting because this is also in Clearwater, where you go to Clearwater to do the higher levels in Scientology. And most of the Scientologists who live in that area would have achieved these higher levels, or at least have done this grade 0, where they gain the ability to speak to anyone about anything, but they actually can't. And I find it interesting. Like, does it ever occur to them, like, hey, I'm supposed to be able, like, I attested that I could speak to anyone about anything, yet Brooks Gibbs comes to my door and I'm not able to have a conversation about it.
Totally. And I'm friendly and I'm educating myself. I'm reading their textbooks. I've got lots of questions. Like in Dianetics, it promises that you won't need glasses anymore
Yeah.
if you follow it. And so why do I see people with glasses? And is it embarrassing? And do some people not choose glasses and they go, though they're nearsighted or something, and they go sort of visually disabled just because they don't want the embarrassment of saying that the tech doesn't work on them? I mean, that's the
Mhm.
equivalent to legalism and sin in the camp and, people hiding who they really are. I have all these questions about what it's like. Yeah, especially all the abilities to move objects and things like this.
Yeah.
Um, it's I don't know. There's no claims that are promised that can actually be guaranteed. And if you're not able to practice the claims promised, the problem is not the claims or the tech. The problem is you practicing the tech. There must be something wrong with you. That's the oppressive and depressive reality of Scientology. If you cannot perform at the level that this tech promises to perform, there must be sin. There must be,
Mhm.
thetans. There must be engrams that need to be chakra'd out or whatever the heck y'all call it. It's so stupid.
Mhm.
And forgive me if I offended someone in another religion, but it's why can't we be honest about that? It
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And the claims are pretty lame. Like the claims they publish nowadays are like, you know, I almost had a car accident, but then I was able to move the car out of the way with my mind. They used to publish claims. I don't know if they still do in a magazine that was a publication of Scientology. And back in the 70s and 80s, these claims were massive. Like cured myself of stuttering or Tourette's, or
Mhm.
I cured my daughter of asthma.
Tom
Like,
Cruise says it cured his dyslexia.
yeah, no claims like that anymore. At least I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
And there's no science in it, obviously. And I found it interesting. I was listening to an old recording of LRH, and he was saying the biggest mistake he ever made in his life was calling it the science of mental health. He says it's not a science of mental health. This is a religion. And I thought that was interesting, that maybe because his publisher, I guess he published it, Dianetics, and then it was what it was, and he wasn't going to change it. But he was saying that was the biggest regret of his life. It is a colossal mistake because there is no science, there's no empirical data, there's no peer-reviewed studies, there's nothing that we could replicate in another part of the country or the world. And so this is sad. So let's make sure you tune in with Cheryl. I know people were thinking we're protesting today, and I imagine that you want to check in with her as she but thanks for spending this time with me and allowing me to join you on Aaron's incredible Friday night podcast. That's pretty awesome.
I appreciate it so much. And I'm sure we will chat again, especially after I get caught up on your, on what's been happening with Save the Garden. This is like all so much information. So appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Anytime. You're such a I just hope Scientology folks watch you, because you are goodness, girl. When I think about how you helped Tony end well and what you went through, that is the picture of goodness and humanity. And I hope to be like you as a caretaker to my own wife and whatever comes, to love our loved ones to the end really
Yeah.
well. Good on you, girl.
No, I appreciate that. I'm so glad I got to see you while you were in town. When you come back, you absolutely have to let me know. We'll have
Of
to get
course,
together
no
again.
doubt about it. Yeah. All right,
All right. Well, you have a
back to the
good rest of
protest.
the night. All right.
Thank
Talk to
you,
you
sis.
later.
Bye-bye.
Oh, how fabulous is that? Make sure you guys go to Save the Garden. Let's check in now again with Farrell Cheryl. Let's make sure I'm all the way.
On everyone, every one of these
I'm caught up in live.
that aren't coming out here tonight.
Florida gives you a new license plate every 10 years. So they don't know my new one.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's a cute little 2 years.
Look it up. To see if anything's coming up on records. They have people they constantly check it every day.
They're still out there quite late. I mean, it is it's 8 o'clock in Clearwater.
Kids around here know our names. They've walked up to us and actually called us by name. Mateo called me by my name. Damn kids going in there.
No, don't go in there.
I read OT3.
It's the baby.
Future SEAL members.
Don't go in there. It's a cult.
Scientology doesn't destroy your family like so many others.
But where's the door? Where's the door?
OT10.
That's it. The kid showed you where the door is. The kid has to show OTs where the damn door is. It's too funny.
Love seeing so many people still out there.
It's about time.
It sounds like Cheryl's starting to wrap it up there. I love that. I'm going to grab some more of your starred comments here as well. Let's see where we're at here. Oh, I lost my spot. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I see where I am. Here we go. Let's see. Some of these we've actually already answered. Let's see. Teresa, Cheryl wrote in chalk Aaron's message. Jail is better than the Sea Org. That's right. That's one thing that Aaron did say from jail is that jail is better than being in the Sea Organization. And I have not ever been in jail, but I get where he's coming from. There's a lot about being in the Sea Organization that reminded me of, like, I would think, like, I wonder if prisoners have more freedoms, especially if you were in trouble in the Sea Organization or you wanted to leave, you would get put on what's called a 24-hour watch, where another Sea Org member would have to be with you 24/7 and watch you to make sure that you didn't leave and take off, basically guard you the whole time. Julie O'Connell, Scientology violates human rights and dignity towards its members. They violate basic needs. I agree with that completely. Magnus, remember, whatever Scientology says, the exact opposite is probably the truth. That's definitely one yardstick to go by. Let's see. Jenny, I hope Aaron knows how much he is loved. Yes, I hope so too. Dave says, if the sandwich man in DC was found not guilty, Aaron will be too. Aaron did not assault anyone. I am not familiar with the sandwich man. I'll have to get caught up on that. The Big Shamwowski, thank you so much for that super chat. Aaron responded to me today writing, quote, lot of time here to brainstorm and think on how to make the protest even better. I love that. That's fantastic. Hey, Jen Cass, Natalie, I love that you are doing this for Aaron and quite frankly, all of us. It just shows how close our community is and how we support each other. I agree. Susan, here is it hired Duchess of Catishid. Cult of Scientology are proving how afraid they are of Aaron's influence. Absolutely. It's kind of like Scientology, your slip is showing. Like it's just, you're being so obvious with all your extraness here. You need to just like stop. Arkansas Flamingo, 10 times more subscribers to Aaron than the total worldwide population of the Cult of Scientology. And that is so true. And that says a lot. Nancy Jane, Scientology is afraid of Black PR. All the while, they're creating Black PR on themselves. They think they are perfect, but they are not. Hashtag free Aaron. That is so true. It's the things that get them in trouble, the things that bring the bad press, the things that bring the criticism are because of things, it's because of their actually policies and belief. It's because of that. Jenny says, I think they are also mad that Aaron has been mentioning Flavio a lot. That is so true. I personally feel like they amped up their harassment of the protesters and Aaron when he started talking about Flavio Lugli and how he hasn't spoken to his parents in well over a decade, and that his parents just wanted to speak to him. Joel McCoy, thank you so much for that super chat. I feel better knowing that a man like this is there working to keep cult of Scientology in check. Agreed. Love Maddie says the judge needs to take a crash course in the practices and abuses of the cult of Scientology and Little DM, his lawyer, too. Yep, I agree. The more, if this is an opportunity for them to learn more about the truth about Scientology and the context of all of this, and that is my hope, and I think it's a hope for a lot of us, is that the context of all this is taken into consideration as well. Julia O'Connell, please, if you are in the Clearwater area, sign the Save the Garden petition. Absolutely. Benson, police are allowed to lie. That's why remain silent. That is true. Maria says that reminds me of Timmy Tallman in the Hollywood building. Oh, I remember those days. Oddsman says free Aaron and Flavio Lugli as well. Northern Girl, the judge is totally biased. She needs to recuse herself just based on that sentence alone. She also said she didn't like the way he protests. That caught my ear a little bit. I kind of thought too, like, well, is that relevant in making a decision? It's basically you're enforcing the law of the land. How you feel about somebody's style of protesting, in my opinion, doesn't seem to be relevant. Doesn't seem to be what should be relevant when relevant when you are looking at the facts and the case at hand. I mean, how are you not biased then because you don't like how this person does that? It's like, well, I don't like what you're wearing. Therefore, it just should be no part of it. That's my opinion. I have not studied the law, but that is what I think. And here we are. Love Maddie. Exactly, Brooks. What a horrible prejudger she is. Was she influenced? Who was she? Was she influenced by? And I don't know. It's hopefully it's not over. The judge can still learn more about this. And I hope that this is the opportunity to be able to do that, to learn more about Scientology and the history and why so many people, former members and non-members alike, speak out about it and take the time to do this and show up in Clearwater like Farrell Sharrow and so many of the people still out there tonight to protest Scientology. Does it matter to you? Not to me. Thank you for gifting 5 growing up in Scientology memberships. Appreciate that. Amber Vaness, good to see you, girl. Ron liked to hear himself talk. I hated listening to him. Talk. My mom always listened to his lectures at night to go to sleep. It was awful. Oh, I know. I still, when I hear L. Ron Hubbard's voice today, I find it very like nails on a chalkboard. I absolutely do. I could live with never seeing that again. Old Frizz, who the heck could try to smear Brooks? Only Scientology. Clearly a learned, truly good man. I agree. I think that's absolutely crazy. And I think it's one of many foot bullets too on the part of Scientology by going after somebody like Brooks and the people on his team who are working on this Save the Garden initiative. It's something that seems very common sense. You want to sell a street? Let's vote on it. Where's the controversy in that? Why wouldn't you want to vote on it? Why wouldn't it? If it's for the people, why shouldn't the people have a say in it? What are they afraid of? A lot. Venus Blue Trial Bunny, as an agnostic spiritual person who leans left, I'd totally be okay with you speaking to kids. You're fascinating. He really is. I learn a lot from Brooks. I remember the very first time I saw him, which was when he spoke at the Clearwater City Council. And I was so taken aback by his ability to show up with such love and openness. You could see that. He wasn't there trying to hurt, harm, or attack Scientology. And I think that was very evident. And I think that Scientology doesn't know how to handle that because, again, Scientology wants you to fight with them. They want you to fight with each other. They want to create conflict. They want to create hate. They want to create that negativity, that low vibe, because when people are stuck in hate, what they end up doing is you're just spinning because you're so caught up in the anger and hate that you lose track of maybe the bigger picture or what you're actually trying to do. And they know that this is how humans work. This is how we work. So if they can get people arguing or just stuck in some deep hatred for someone or something or even them, that can slow you down. They don't know what to do with people who show up with love in their heart, or at least not wishing them harm. This is where they're wrong. Most people on the other side of this who are not pro Scientology don't wish harm on any of them. It's so much, many of us, why we speak out, like I said earlier, is because I care about the people who are still there. I care about what happens to them. People left and spoke out. That helped me leave. People left and spoke out. That helped me stay out. Because leaving Scientology, I know many people who turned around and went back. And other people sharing their stories, it's what helped me and my family realize that what we were seeing, other people were seeing too. So very much appreciate that. Marcy, thank you so much for gifting 5 growing up in Scientology memberships. Appreciate that. Dino Nuggets Legacy. Natalie is our Oprah. Thank you. Thank you for that super sticker too. Aaron's going to appreciate that. CO Bill, can non-Scientologists live at the Harbor Bluffs waterfront condos in Clearwater? Are any of these places where a lot of public live engaging in unlawful housing discrimination? CO Bill, that is a great question. And that is something that I wondered about, because you cannot deny housing based on a person's religion. In the same way that you couldn't say, well, you can't live here because you're a Scientologist. You can't say you can't live here because you're not a Scientologist. So I don't know. I don't know how they get around that. Something tells me that the building that Tom Cruise lives in is not full of non-Scientologists. I would, call me crazy. You guys tell me what you think. I just think that I just don't see it happening. Tom Cruise, he ain't got time for that. He's not trying to be around all these non-Scientologists. I want to check one more time here on Cheryl. Looks like she's packing up.
You down there?
All right, yes, you will.
I wish she could hear me.
Thank you.
I love you, Cheryl. You're so cute.
Okay. Well, that was fun. So we're gonna go to the bar and get our gossip on, and that's it for tonight. Woo! What a day. I'm still tired. Oh, good night, honey. I'm still tired from yesterday. Anyway, I'll be home shortly. I'm just going to order something to eat and then go home. Natalie says I love Natalie so much too. And I love my honey. All right, kids, I'm going to go. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for...
And thank you, Cheryl, for being out there and doing that. And everybody that came out to protest tonight in Clearwater or anywhere else or came online, and all of you for being here to support Aaron. and shed light on the truth about Scientology. I appreciate you all. I will be on again. We're going to be doing more videos with other friends of Aaron as well here on the channel. Be sure that you subscribe here at Growing Up in Scientology and go ahead and like that video as well. And feel free to share it, get the word out. Watch time is the name of the game. We're going to create a lot of fun content. Go back. If you've missed any of Aaron's videos, go back and watch them because, again, a creator on YouTube makes a living through watch time. And thank you, everybody, for the donated memberships, and the super stickers and super chats and all of that tonight. I appreciate all of you. I hope you all have an amazing cult-free night. I guess it is evening. Talk to you later.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, dancing for my love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,